Hey, what's up, guys? I am Rofnum, and it is Sunday. It is not just any Sunday, it is Super Bowl Sunday. We have the Kansas City Chiefs versus the San Francisco 49ers, red and white versus red and gold. This is going to be a huge matchup. We got the number one scoring, well, this is sort of number one scoring offense in the NFL, but probably the most high-powered offense in the NFL versus the Kansas City Chiefs versus the 49ers, number one rushing offense in the NFL and their number one rated defense in the NFL. It's going to be a huge game. I'm hoping for a really good game, really tight game. But being that I am from California, I am from near San Francisco. That's where I was raised for a good part of my life. And my family is all Niners fans. I am going for the San Francisco 49ers. I've been a huge fan of the San Francisco 49ers ever since I was little. First games that we watched as a family, Joe Montana was the quarterback, and then obviously I got to watch Steve Young and their big Super Bowl win in the 94-95 season. I watched them all the way through. I've been watching them every year, all the way through the Jeff Garcia, where they were still really good, and then after Jeff Garcia left and the big controversy in him leaving, then they went into the doldrums, the humdrum. They were on the bottom for so long. We had tons of different quarterbacks. We had I'm trying to remember, it was like Tim Druckenmiller and Tim Rattay, and for some reason I remember the name Elvis Gerbach, but I think he was a backup, not a starting quarterback. But we had a lot of not very good quarterbacks, and our offensive line was horrible. Then we drafted Alex Smith, and everybody had high expectations for him. And here's one thing that always bothered me about the Alex Smiths with the San Francisco 49ers until Jim Harbaugh got there, and he really fixed the main issue that Alex Smith had. At the beginning of Alex Smith's career, he was brought in, and he was put in as the starter, and straight out of college, and on an NFL team that didn't have an offensive line. They had Frank Gore, and Frank Gore is one of the best running backs in the NFL. He always has been. I always loved Chris Berman's name for him, the inconvenient truth, because it was, you give him the ball, it was just, he was going to get 4 to 5 yards. It was just an inconvenient truth for the defense. You weren't stopping him. And he's been that way for every team that he's gone to, from the San Francisco 49ers, the Indianapolis Colts, the Bills this last year. I think he was with the Dolphins, but he's always been a really good rusher. So they had a really good running back, and then they had Alex Smith, but they didn't have an offensive line really. The only reason why they were able to gain any yards rushing was because Frank Gore was such a workhorse, such a powerhouse running back that he could run over people and gain yards no matter what, and he would always fall forward. But they didn't have the pass blocking that they needed. They didn't have any really good receivers. So everybody says Alex Smith, in the beginning of Alex Smith's career, that Alex Smith was a bust. But he didn't have any offensive weapons other than Frank Gore. He didn't have an offensive line at all. Eventually they got Vernon Davis, which helped, and they got Joe Staley to shore up the left tackle position. And Joe Staley's been a perennial Pro Bowler ever since he came into the league and was on the 49ers. But they still needed to get more pieces. And then they brought in Jim Harbaugh, and Jim Harbaugh really turned things around. And the first few years that Alex Smith was with Jim Harbaugh with the San Francisco 49ers, he showed what he was capable of. I mean, they won a shootout against the Saints in the playoffs, and they won something like 43-42, and that was on the arm of Alex Smith. That there wasn't the rushing attack; it was throwing the ball. I think Alex Smith threw for over 400 yards in that game, so he showed that he is capable of being a really good quarterback in the NFL. Now, then they went from Alex Smith to Colin Kaepernick, And of course, there's huge controversy about Colin Kaepernick. Personally, I never really liked Colin Kaepernick because I felt like he only could throw to half the field, and it was whatever half he was running towards, and he wouldn't even look the other way. So wherever his primary receiver was, he would stay focused on that side of the field. So it was once you got a season or two of film on him, it was really easy to tell where he was going to go with the ball, and maybe he's corrected that in his training since he's been out of the league. I honestly don't think that he should be out of the league. He is a good enough quarterback to be on a lot of these teams that are basically quarterback lists out there. And he is a good quarterback. He's a mobile quarterback. And a lot of teams could really use that. And why they don't pick him up is just beyond me. Yeah, there was some controversy with the whole kneeling during the national anthem and all that stuff. But so what? That doesn't matter. If the player's good and he's not beating his girlfriend or beating his wife or getting into fights using drugs or anything like that, his political views, yeah, he probably shouldn't have taken him to the football field, but still, his political views shouldn't affect his playing status. It doesn't make any sense. Personally, I don't think that the Niners should have gone with him instead of Alex Smith. They should have given Alex Smith one more year because he got him to the Super Bowl one year, and then they got rid of him the next year. So that was kind of confusing for me. And then, the big controversy with Trent Baalke and Jim Harbaugh, and now we've got the amazing John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan running things, and we have Jimmy G as our quarterback, George Kittle as our tight end. We've got the three-headed monster at running back, and for some reason I'm blanking on their names. Other than we got Mostert, Breida, and Coleman. Those are the names. Mostert, Breida, and Coleman. Amazing running backs, and then we've got Emmanuel Sanders and Deebo Samuel as our receivers I can't think of what his name is right now. Number 84. I just can't think of what his name is right now. But we finally got some really good receivers, and you can tell that the lady that they brought in to help out with the receivers has done a tremendous job with the wide receivers out there. And all of our tight ends, not just George Kittle, all of our tight ends are beasts in the blocking game. But George Kittle is, bar none, the best tight end in the NFL. And then second would be Travis Kelce, who plays on the Kansas City Chiefs. But the biggest controversy going on in the Super Bowl right now is Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo, who is this quarterback who doesn't have a whole lot of starts under his belt. This was his first full season as a starting quarterback. Even so, he has like 25 wins and 5 losses. 25 wins and 5 losses. And people are saying that they don't think that he can win it for the 49ers. I'm sorry. Prior to Jimmy Garoppolo taking over as the starting quarterback for the 49ers, they had a 2-14 season, a 1-15 season. They may have lost every game in the season. Using the quarterbacks that are currently on the roster besides Jimmy Garoppolo, they went 4-12. And Jimmy Garoppolo's first season with the 49ers, they were 2-8 before Jimmy Garoppolo took over, and he won 5 games in a row to close out the season. Don't tell me the Niners can win with one of the other quarterbacks on their roster, because using the same exact team that the Niners had all year long, he took the Niners to 5 straight wins. 5 straight. So, for people to say that Jimmy Garoppolo can't win the games for the 49ers, I mean, the Niners can't win on the arm of Jimmy Garoppolo. He beat the Kansas City Chiefs, not the Kansas City Chiefs. He beat the New Orleans Saints with his arm. They went toe-to-toe with Jacksonville with their rushing attack and his arm. Not Jacksonville. They went Lamar Jackson. I can't get the names mixed up. They went toe to toe with Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, and they almost won that game. All 3 games that they lost this year, they lost on the last play of the game, basically. No, it was on the last play of the game. And yes, one of them was because he threw an interception, and it was a return for a touchdown. But that happens to even the best quarterbacks. I mean, yes, Joe Montana was one of the greatest quarterbacks ever to play the game. Personally, I think he was the best because of the time period that he played in. They didn't protect quarterbacks like they do now. If he played in today's era, yes, he didn't have the cannon of an arm that Mahomes has or some of these other quarterbacks have. But if it was Montana versus Brady in the Super Bowl, that would be one heck of a game because neither one of them have cannons for arms, but they can throw any pass anywhere at any time throughout their entire career. And they're both of them huge fourth quarter guys. They brought their teams back over and over and over again to come from behind and win, including in Super Bowls. Jimmy Garoppolo, he doesn't have a cannon for an arm, but he does have, like, Kyle Shanahan said it himself that he went to throw with Jimmy Garoppolo and he regretted not bringing his gloves because his hands hurt after they were done throwing. You see passes that hit guys in hands and he fires them in there like bullets. He may not have the distance, but he can sling that ball in there hard and fast when he needs to. And he's only got a grand total of, I think, 2 years worth of games started under his belt. Total of two seasons under his belt, but he only has one full season as a quarterback. And you guys are saying that he's not that good of a quarterback. He's already in the Super Bowl, and he's already led a team that was on the bottom to the Super Bowl just last year. But Jimmy Garoppolo has led a team that was one of the worst teams in the NFL just last year to the Super Bowl this year. Granted, their defense is substantially better than it was last year, but it was still pretty good last year as well. I just wish people would stop ragging on Jimmy Garoppolo and saying that he's not a good quarterback. I mean, yeah, he may not be a top-tier quarterback, but he's definitely not a bottom quarterback. I'm sure there are a lot of teams that would rather have Jimmy Garoppolo on their team than the quarterbacks that they have out there. I would say that he's probably top 15 quarterback in the NFL. If you go just based on the "what have you done for me lately" stat alone, Jimmy Garoppolo, just for the season alone, he's probably in the he would have to be in the top 15, if not top 10, just for the season alone. Overall, yeah, I don't think he's a top 10 quarterback. I agree with that statement, but I do think he's a top 15. Patrick Mahomes, on the other hand, he's shown a very consistent, I am the best player on the team. And that's the other thing. Kansas City's game plan for the offense is geared around Patrick Mahomes. San Francisco's is all geared around what is working. Our run game is working, we're going to run the ball. Our pass game is working, we're going to pass the ball. Those that say that Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't pass very well, he has 3 games this year where he threw for over 300 yards. 1 game where he threw for over 400. And let's see, he has 2 games where he completed over 80% of his passes. And one of them was against Seattle, who was a playoff team this year, and they were really good. They were really tough. But I firmly believe that the Niners have a better team team than Kansas City. Kansas City may have the best player, but I believe the Niners have the better team, and the football is a team game. Kansas City has the better player, and they may, I don't know if I agree with this, but they may have the better star players. I think that George Kittle is better than Travis Kelce for his all-around game. I think he's a better pass blocker. I think he's a better run blocker, and his yards after the catch are second to none. And he refuses to go down. He had tons of highlights this year. I mean, you could make a really good highlight reel just of George Kittle's passing and blocking plays this year alone. And then you've got Raheem Mostert and Matt Breida and Coleman, and at different times this year, all three of them were just monsters, and they were unstoppable at different times this year. And when one of them started being stopped, one of the other ones picked it up, and they were unstoppable. And I think the Niners have more ways to beat Kansas City than Kansas City has ways to beat San Francisco, especially being that the San Francisco 49ers have the best passing defense in the NFL. And Kansas City is known as a passing team. I think it's going to be an interesting matchup, but I really do think that the Niners have a better chance to win than a lot of people are giving them credit for. I think they are the better team. And I think they will win because they are the better team. And I honestly don't think it's going to be as close as people say that it is. And the stat line is like 1.5 points for Kansas City. I don't think it's going to be that close. No matter which team wins, I don't think it's going to be that close. It's either going to be the Niners run away with it or Kansas City runs away with it because of Kansas City's fast-scoring offense. Because they can. Kansas City can score fast, especially if the defense gets gassed. If the defense gets gassed, if the 49ers defense gets gassed because the Niners are not able to move the ball for whatever reason, they're not running the ball, and Jimmy Garoppolo is not the quarterback that I think he is, and he's not able to make the Kansas City Chiefs pay for loading up the box to stop the run, then I could very easily see this being a complete blowout of Kansas City beating San Francisco. But then you have the other way around, too. If the Niners are able to run the ball, and then the Kansas City Chiefs stack up to stack up the box to stop the run, and then they leave themselves open to the passing attack, and Jimmy Garoppolo takes advantage of that, like I know he can, then I think that the Niners are going to blow them out. I don't think this game is going to be as close as people think that it's going to be. I think it'll be a great game. I just don't think it's going to be as close as people think it is. But it's still the Super Bowl, and it's Sunday, and it's football, and anything can happen. A key player can go down on a specific play and completely change the outcome of the game. So anything can happen. But I'm done with my Super Bowl rant for now. Random thought of the day. How do animals know when you're not feeling well? I mean, scientists say that they can sense your emotions, but how? Why can't we do that? I mean, it's weird. As humans, if we know people really well, we can tell when they're not quite themselves and when they're a little off. But animals, it's like whether they've been around you forever or they've been around you for a few minutes. If you're not feeling well, they know, and they have one of two reactions. They either go away because they just don't care, like cats, or they come to you and try to chew you up, like a lot of dogs. And there are cats that do that too, especially if you've had the cats for quite a while, or kittens. But yeah, so I've always wondered how animals know how you're feeling. It's weird because, like I said, as human beings, unless we really know a person, We don't sense those kinds of things, but animals do. Anyways, that's your random thought of the day. It is Sunday. It is Super Bowl Sunday. I hope you enjoyed the Super Bowl. I hope you had a great weekend. I will see you all on Monday with a new rendition of the 3 newest free games on Steam. Keep your head up. Keep moving forward. This is Rofno, signing off.